Okay, cool. So, welcome everybody. We're gonna do another Elden Ring bosses tier list, but because we have so many fantastic bosses in the DLC, but not as many as we would have had in the actual base game of Elden Ring, we're just gonna do them all. We're just gonna do every single one, every mini boss, every remembrance boss. If you don't know, here's the criteria for how to get up in the ranks in this tier list. We rate things on gameplay. So that's how hard the boss is, the actual combat flow of the boss, the design of the boss's moveset and everything like that. The actual stuff that you do when you're playing the game. And then the presentation, that's the music, that's the arena, that's the look of the boss, that's the overall aesthetics, the vibe, if you will. And then the replayability being the ways in which the boss encourages you to come back in like New Game Plus or just play it through again and again and again and again. How much fun do you have effectively losing to this boss as you're trying new things? Starting off with the one that it seems like everybody would face first, the Black Jail Knight. It's guts. In my FromSoft game, we had a Berserk reference. Black Jail Knight is a boss that has a very simple gameplay, but Black Jail Knight might be your first boss where you don't have any Erdtree levels. So still hits pretty hard. And I heard, yes, hit even harder pre-nerf. The crossbow rapid fire shots is a very fun move to surprise and punish the the RB spammers here. So I would say it gets a positive for gameplay, probably like a proper good early difficulty there, and still also pretty fun. I would say that presentation wise, there's nothing positive or negative to say here. It's just a dude. And as far as replayability, pretty neutral as well. Nothing really specific to try with this guy. Once you understand his gimmick, there's not really much more to it. So Black Jail Knight goes in B tier. Black Knight Erdtree. It's a Black Knight that, has a health bar. So who mega lol? Who cares? Rava the Great Red Bear. This is a bear. So immediately, it's C tier. Because, fuck the bears in Elden Ring. But this bear is also not as terrifying as the actual bears in Elden Ring. Actually, not a negative for gameplay, I would say. Actually, rune bears are harder than this boss. Yeah, nothing else more to say. This is a definition of just a boss that you stumble onto and you beat on your first or second try, and you're like, huh, okay. Dryleaf Dane. Dryleaf Dane is a really cool idea to have a boss that basically teaches you a new weapon type within the game and also adds abilities that you can Ashes of War that you can add onto it. So immediately from a gameplay perspective, it's a general positive. Nothing really to say for replayability. And then presentation wise, I would say actually slight positive there, but nothing to bring it fully into a full point. So I say Dryleaf Dane goes into a little bit of a high B tier. Red Bear. It's the bear guy, but looks like an Everjail. So I don't even know if I face them, but who mega lol? Death Knights. Okay. I'm gonna see if I can grab all the Death Knights here. Death Knights are goated. Let me say this right here, right now. The Death Knights are amazing. Gameplay, amazing. Puts them into B tier. The variety of their movesets, ways in which you can get absolutely punished if you're not taking them as seriously, despite them being very easy to backstab. And as far as presentation, they immediately get a plus. Their music and their overall just look with the spectral wings and everything, all Death Knights are A tier. Nothing really crazy, I would say, for replay value, but definitely a mini boss for Catacomb that very quickly surprised me. Ancient Dragon Man. You know what? Props for giving them a boss that actually uses dragon communions and uses them kind of effectively. So this boss gets +1 for gameplay. Presentation, replayability, pretty neutral. It's a cool looking model for the boss, but everything as far as the environment and stuff makes it pretty average. I'm gonna put Ancient Dragon Man a little bit above Dryleaf Dane. Jagged Peak Drake. It's a basic dragon, D tier. Nothing really much more to say there than just it's a dragon. Jagged Peak Drake with what with the friend? D for dragon. There we go. Ancient Dragon Senisax. Now this is that bullshit lightning guy that's there on the way up to Bayle, right? Demi-human Swordmaster Ons. Yeah, Humegalol. Okay, now it's our first remembrance boss on this whole list. Curse you, Bayle! All right, yep, put the copy pasta in chat, y'all. Bayle the Dread. FromSoft has been notorious. We're not really taking their dragon fights to new heights until Elden Ring. There's a lot to be said about Bayle the Dread. The presentation, everything about this fight was peak spectacle. It gave Rykard a run for his money. It gave Radahn a run for his money. So immediate B tier minimum. Gameplay, this is the fun part here. Bayle does something that I think needs to be respected. This is one of the dragon fights that actually fights with his head in a way that I think encourages you to attack the head more than any other FromSoft dragon. The way in which his head was used to not just come at you with like ferocity for the grab and everything like that, but with the different breath attack options, all the different moves, but then all the flying and everything didn't make it feel like too unwieldy of a fight. I was impressed that it was a spectacle fight that wasn't easy, but also wasn't me fighting against the camera. There was also a lot of little subtle nuances to the fight with the way you can attack him with his bum leg, the fire versus lightning aspects of his fight, and then the actual weapon that you get set up for it not being an automatic win like it was with Rykard, but actually just something that you could spec into if you wanted. Replayability, I feel like, is a positive, but not as high as the presentation or gameplay side of things. So still a positive, which puts it into S tier. Now, Bayle the Dread is not my favorite fight in the DLC, but I would say there's a contender for it to be S+ for your tier list, because I could see a lot of little things that push him into that special aspect there. Massive replayability just for Igor though. Okay, the idea that you're always having fun getting to fight him because you get to hear that monologue over and over again. I liked the monologue, but I'm not gonna put that into this there because I could see some people not really liking the monologue because you get to hear it over and over and over again. And you shouldn't have to summon, I would say, for a boss to be fun or good replay. So S for me, fantastic remembrance boss. Curseblade Labyrinth. I don't know what the hell this is. Humegalol. Chief Bloodfiend. Yeah, I remember this. Mostly just because of the wave of all the other little guys with him, but it's a Humegalol. Rakshasa. I didn't fight them, so I have to put them down here. Deathrite Birds. Hey, Deathrite Birds. Y'all, this is a boss from Elden Ring. Making F tier right now. You know what? I'm really considering it. There we go. This is just a lazy copy pasta. They just threw it in here and it's like, okay. And it has all the dumb little ads on the side that you have to kind of kill. Otherwise, it's just gonna make the fight tedious for no reason. Lamenter. I really like this boss. This is actually a pretty cool, just little mini boss here. Not hard. Nothing really crazy positive as far as presentation goes. Replayability is just average. But I will give this one actually a low B tier for the cool little game mechanic there. Little puzzle boss, yeah. I guess low B tier would be like up here. Putrescent Knight. Okay, this is my hot take. I don't like the hitbox of Putrescent Knight. I think this boss gets a negative for gameplay for me. I think presentation is actually a positive, so it neutralizes the negative. Yeah, the whole horse aesthetic and then getting off the horse and then the environment that it's in, the positive of the presentation bit is awesome. I would say this is a C tier. This is a C tier boss. I don't know if it's that bad, but it's definitely the bottom of C tier for me. Dancer of Rellana is a Humegalol, just a kind of mini boss here. Golden Hippo! Okay, Golden Hippo. This one is great. It's a very simple, just beast fight. Very much gave me some visions of in Dark Souls 3 with the charge attacks across the arena. Although there's some gimmicky charge attacks within this one, but I would say this is an example of a nice mid-boss. I don't think there's anything positive to say about any of the ratings here, but I don't think there's anything wholly negative with it either. The phase transition with the golden spines was really cool. So maybe it gets a slight point for presentation, which edges it into B tier. No, I'm gonna put it at the very top of C tier. Commander Gaius. Okay, here it is. Here's the hot dookie. What do you know? The bosses that I disliked the most had horses or mounts or something. I think that almost everything to do with the moveset of him and tying things to Radahn and almost actually like giving away some moves that Radahn will, actually inevitably do to you is really cool. But the gameplay part is inevitably, and I mean inevitably, an unfortunate example of hitboxes needing some slight tuning, and this would be a wonderful fight. But that being said, the gameplay is a flat out negative for me. I have no interest in doing this boss. It is a double negative there, and the presentation, the presentation is just neutral. Commander Gaius gets a -2, which goes from C to D to F, so I'm not gonna do them the disservice of being below a Deathrite bird. There's really just two things they need to change. Fix the way in which you can get double hit by his charge attack, which might be just a weird interaction between poise and other things and stuff, so it might not be that big of a deal. But allow you to jump his charge. If you can jump his charge, solved it. It's a great fight. That might make him a little too easy. That would teach people to jump, and I think it would be a pretty solid fight. The Divine Beast, Dancing Lion, Bellarat. FromSoft knows how to do the first Remembrance boss, like the intro to the DLC boss, perfectly. They understand, like with Margit and Godric, the Divine Beast here, and then by extension, Rellana, that they've got it down when it comes to gameplay, presentation, and replayability. This is one of the easiest S tiers. There are some slight criticisms I will put. Yes, chat, you can read my mind. There's some camera wonkiness, which is solved because it's a massive boss. You should be good enough at this point playing Elden Ring to be able to deselect and select the camera at will, and then, use your sprinting properly to just keep the boss in view with your right stick. So it's not a full negative or anything. It still is a fantastic gameplay. The elemental shifts make it feel like a puzzle boss, even though it's not. But you can then make the boss fight go longer by intentionally drawing out the elemental phase that you struggle with the most, which to me feels like a good kind of push and pull decision-making process within the boss fight. And then of course the animations and the graphics and the music, the fucking music for this fight obviously makes the presentation amazing. But then also I want to try like 15 different builds for this boss. This boss is a come with your cool build. Come with any build. You're gonna have a good time. I love how it constantly swaps between phases. Yes, I could gush so much about the dancing line from just a phase standpoint there, which meanwhile, let me go and grab the other dancing lion here and just throw this one here into A tier, but I would say near the bottom here. I have no replay desire for this one because I want to play the first one. Because of the basilisks that jump in with the second one, I don't really have any interest to replay this boss, but I give it the exact same for the gameplay and presentation. All right, there it is. There it is. I don't think there's much more to say other than when I was making the tier list categories, I literally made S+ for Messmer. Messmer strikes the perfect balance of being the story boss, like the one that has the emotional core of the DLC behind him, and he's not even the main villain. There's something so beautifully sad about the presentation of Messmer, within his music, within his dialogue, within the overall cutscene and fight itself. He is absolutely the Artorias of the DLC, yes. I would say that Messmer, with proper Shadow Tree levels so that you're getting the, intended experience in that regard, yes, has the capacity, Eefling, I agree, to be the best boss in Elden Ring. I agree. There's something about fighting a boss that has very clear windows for everything that they do, but every once in a while will just throw this rapid, glorious barrage of moves at you that's varied and also very doable. So I feel like for me, this is the perfect kind of medium difficulty boss. Phase transition makes you feel his desperation to win the fight. I would say you're right on the money with that, but I would also say phase transition is actually where the boss showcases, maybe even in a way that's not intended, but he has a very clear weakness, is that the Serpent is actually the biggest window. He has bigger windows for damage in phase 2 than he does in phase 1, in my opinion. And that's that when he launches as the snake and he morphs out into the ooze of the snake there, you can hit him before he's fully appeared. You can do major damage to him. I don't know, I think it's sad in a way that it shows how corrupt he is by this thing. So presentation makes it the S+ tier for sure. Gameplay wise, I still think he could have been a tougher fight. I think that it's kind of a shame that Rellana was harder than Messmer by an overwhelming margin. And I'm not even talking about just because of Shadow Tree level. I'm talking about by the actual movesets themselves. Messmer should not be easier than Rellana, in my opinion. No, I was overshadowed. Yes, I understand that. But I think that moveset wise, even then, Messmer's moveset is not that difficult. But he's still S+ tier for me. Basically saying Messmer could have been even better, even more perfect. That's the only negatives really I could say about him, other than I miss you. I want to try and fight you again with 30 different builds. I'm so glad they cooked on this boss. Shadow Tree Avatar. Okay, so I didn't necessarily fight this boss either at the proper time. So I kinda punked this boss. I will say, this makes it very hard for me to rank. But presentation-wise, automatically makes it a B. As far as gameplay, there's a lot of potentially kind of nonsense moves that he has. I would not put anything positive in the gameplay, but I'm not necessarily put anything negative there. I definitely desire to replay this boss, but that's because I didn't really play them in any crazy difficult fashion. I kinda found the weakness and destroyed it. So I would actually put it potentially put it up here. Let me put it right in between our Death Knights and the Divine Beast Dancing Lion. I'm gonna put it in A tier. I think it was a fantastic fight. I'd love to fight it again. Hinterland Tree Sentinels. It's a tree sentinel. Why? Why do we need to fight tree sentinels again? I didn't need a boss there. All right, Hinterland's Falling Star Beast. That's the only area of the DLC that I think was undercooked. I think the world of the Shadowlands or what have you is phenomenal, but that one area outside of Marika's village, Okay. So, this boss, if any of you have not finished the DLC, you should not be here. This boss is nuts. The implications of this fight, and I feel so bad that I don't really care about lore for the ratings. This boss would get an S tier immediately if I weighted lore into things here, because she's the mother of fingers. She's got the most horrifying design, I would say, of any of the Elden Ring bosses. Yeah, the quest line was phenomenal. The build up to it is great. And then the actual reward at the end, seeing this nightmare, this forgotten piece of this world's origins, and even the whole religion of the Erdtree and all that, makes this an immediate positive for presentation. Here's the weird thing. This is the part that kind of sucks. I feel like the gameplay is kind of mid. No positives, no negatives, just kind of Now, I do actually think, though, it has replay value. There's some very cool build ideas that I'd want to try with this boss. So while the gameplay is not wholly negative, it's a neutral for me. So that makes it an A tier fight. I think is gonna have to put it, yeah, bottom of A tier for me. Count Ymir, Mother of Fingers. Is better than our all-knowing bitch bro. We'll put him up here with Ancient Dragon Man. Not much more to say. Demi-Human Queen Mariga. You were on the beach? Yeah. Jory, Elder Inquisitor. Okay, so in Dark Souls 3, there's a very particular spammy magic teleporting character that I really didn't like. Jory, I actually didn't mind. Jory being the gateway to the Abyss, the overall types of magic that he was doing was very new and interesting. So I would give a definite positive for presentation. Probably nothing for replay or gameplay, just pretty neutral there. But I think Jory actually deserves top of B tier. Like, Jory was pretty awesome. Midra, Lord of the Frenzied Flame. Yeah, I'll say one thing. Midra is not a mid boss by any stretch of it. I don't know what the community sentiment is on this, but I think Midra is underrated and incredible. I would say, again, one of those elements of where Midra might be a little bit easy, but I think that as far as looks, gameplay, and overall replayability, I would put him like straight here. The only thing where I feel like he's lacking is that maybe that little bit of spectacle, like with transformation and stuff, like another phase. Other than that, yeah, this was a great reward for a very terrifying and unfriendly zone. Rugalea, the Great Red Bear. Wait, there's two Great Red Bears? All right, y'all can go together. I don't remember any of you. Ramana, Saint of the Bud. I have very positive things to say about this boss. This is a status effect boss that I really like. I really, really, really liked this boss. There's a lot of things about the hitbox I am a big fan of. There are a lot of ways where you can get really close to this boss and you're not punished for it because of the way the tendrils and the centipede part and the kind of scorpion tail part extend out, that it makes it kind of like a vulnerable point, but then it'll start to spin or do its leap stuff and everything like that. I would say gameplay is an automatic positive. Yeah, there was no bullshit in this fight. Yes, I think that when we fight bosses with poison or stuff like that, status effect style bosses, there's a lot of like trauma that we have as FromSoft players where we're like, yep, let me grab my stuff that removes the status effect and stuff. I really didn't feel anything like that. And I also really liked the way it would fly and stuff. I think some of my favorite bosses that I've found in Elden Ring and the DLC are the bosses that do a bunch of leaping and jump attacks and stuff, but they don't stay away from you, or they don't use these moves to run away and keep distance from you like the Elden Beast. Bosses like the Divine Beast, Malekith, even the Death Knights, and Ramana by extension. So gameplay is an automatic positive for me. Presentation was probably, in terms of the boss's individual model, was probably the most interesting as far as design there. The music was pretty cool. The only thing is, do I want this boss to be an S tier because of replayability? In some ways, yes. I kind of want to try this boss with a big bonk build because of the windows being the way that they are. So I think this boss actually is bottom of S tier. Like, is it just me, or is this DLC full of S tier bosses, so there's like no room for A tier really? Yeah, I think this is a bottom of S tier boss. Ghost Flame Dragon. It's a dragon, but it was Ghost Flame, so it's kind of cool. It's another Ghost Flame Dragon. Yeah. And it's another Ghost Flame Dragon. Black Knights. Y'all can go together in Humegalol. Okay. Rellana. Second favorite boss of the DLC. I have so much I want to gush about this boss here. This is probably, other than presentation-wise, and the fact that, yes, no cutscene, yep. This has probably the best flow state feel, gameplay-wise, in the DLC. I'm gonna say it. I think Rellana is Malenia, but better. I think Rellana is what Millennia should have been. Rellana has like 3 things going from just a gameplay perspective that puts her immediately into S+ tier. The twin swords being different types of moves that you can bait based on your proximity during certain other move sets. You can really get in the head of this boss and make it fight the way you want to fight sometimes. This boss has a very clear kind of chain sequence of, based on how far she is into her certain combos, she's going to chain into other combos. But some of those have such clear windows in them that because I was a dex build, or effectively a dex build, I was able to enter into this flow state where I was weaving in hits while dodging, hit, dodge, and it felt so good. And then the other thing is just there's very clear phase transitions marked by singularly executed moves rather than her actual core fundamental gameplay changing, which I love that so much. I love that so much. While the lighting up of the 2 swords is effectively that full phase change, the other individual moves kind of using that as well, like the double moon bombs. I love that so much. So that's just gameplay. Presentation wise, she's Elden Ring, Pontiff Sulivan, Millennia, single knight boss dual wielding swords in a very straightforward arena. What's not to love? The beauty is in the simplicity. Fantastic stuff there. Music, of course, as well, is fantastic. Other things to say about presentation. Oh, the only thing I could say as a negative is that the water effects and the rain kind of chugged my PC a little bit. Still, second favorite boss in the DLC. Replayability. Oh my god. Because it's a basic knight enemy in an arena with a goated moveset, yes, I want to replay this boss. Her and Messmer are the main 2 reasons I want to go and do New Game Plus. The other point that why I'd say replayability is high, and I need to remind you all of this because I put this into the ranking thing, is that if I'm losing against the boss but I still want to keep fighting, that's a good replayability boss, which is this boss. And really the only thing that gave me grief was the frames dropping. But all right, let's talk about him. He's here, the man of the hour. You know his name. Coming in from the god rope, from the top of the gate, sporting his glorious little godman boy atop his back, the promised consort Radon. What a man, what a legend. I think that this boss, you take away all the lore, take away all the story stuff, and you just take him as a boss here. There are 2 things to say that I think could make this boss, from a perspective, a tough boss to rank highly. I think it's that 1, the amount of flashing lights and kind of spectral movements make it really hard to track with your eyes what he's doing. Other than that, the only maybe other thing is that you can very what would I even call this here? Maybe certain builds struggle with this boss. I feel like this is the weird thing where I'm on the complete other side than I was for the Millennia discussion. I think Radon goes here. I just have my experience to go on. This is what I'd want from a final boss. I could feel myself getting just so good at Elden Ring as a game. Yeah, I don't think there's anything more to say other than this is a boss that takes everything that you've learned about Elden Ring, everything, and puts it into practice. I would love to see, someone said that earlier, I'd love to see how casters do with Promised Consort Radon, but from a gameplay perspective, phase 1 is a nice ramp into things, giving you an idea of what his moves are. The light echo that's added to all those moves in phase 2 makes it so you're discouraged from running away from the boss, which I actually kind of like. The only negative, even slightly from a gameplay perspective, is that because of that, you don't end up seeing much of the boss when you're that close. Yeah, I don't think he's an S+ boss because while his presentation is goated, I want to try him with other builds. There's these slight tiny hiccups in the gameplay where I wouldn't give him S+, but I seriously considered putting him up here. Yeah, that's my take on the bosses. But yeah, I feel like I did a fair job despite throwing pretty much everything down here indiscriminately into the bottom. There are only 10 remembrance bosses in the DLC. I put all of these up here. They did such a good job with the remembrance bosses in this DLC. The Putrescent Knight and Gaius are the obvious outliers. And even then, I can tell that I have a little bit of bias with the Putrescent Knight, so if this is the last of the Elden Ring content together, it's an absolute pleasure. I 100% agree. These being basically the overworld bosses, I think is the good way to describe it, other than Gaius, who's the outlier here of just being the only really bad boss in the game, in my opinion. They did their job. They were overworld little elite mini encounters. Obviously, some special love given to the bears and the big hippopotamus here just to keep them out of Humega Lol tier, because you know what? I love the big beasts. I love the big bears and stuff. And then Putrescent Knight is the kind of the weird kind of mid boss where it's just like, oh, you're kind of just eh. And then we have some fun, gimmicky B tier bosses that had some cool story stuff with Ymir and Dane. And then Jory and Ancient Dragon Man and Lamenter for being like cool expressions of their area of the world that they're in and their specific stuff, and being like, oh, I'd love to know what your story is a little bit more, other than just probably sad and depressing. And then all these A tier fights where it was these very weird but awesome, just frenetic fights in different styles and flavors and stuff. But is the gang fight anywhere on this list? Oh, true. Technically, that is not here. I would say then that if I was to put Leda and the crew somewhere, I would put them probably in between Ymir and Dane here. I would put them in B tier, primarily because it's one of those like, oh, you're fighting a bunch of NPCs and you're kind of needing the RNG or to kind of manipulate your NPC allies to go into a specific spot in order to help you. Yeah, gameplay was good, neutral on presentation and replay. Presentation was decent, but not enough for a full positive. But I like the story side of things, but it's not really a full boss fight. It's more of a story fight. So it also doesn't feel appropriate for this list where I don't really rate lore and story into the equation. Because then as a story part, it's amazing because the more quests you finish and the more people that you kill potentially, the different the fight is. Well, that's my tier list, and thank you all very much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, let me know what bosses you would have been, we would have put in a different position. Let me know which bosses were your top 5. Let me know if I have a shit take about Promised Consort Radahn. I'm curious to know which boss here gave you a ton of trouble, which boss gave you a really easy time and you just found it to be a breeze. My boss that I probably struggled with the most in a weird way was probably Putrescent Knight. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for watching the video. Yep, bye YouTube, bye YouTube.